Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Ramblemancy. So, I don't think a lot more needs to be said than what you just saw, but, yeah, as per our announcement last time, Tomorrow is Dead, our zombie RPG, is getting a season 2, with many of the cast returning to reprise their roles from before. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. We're currently in the process of the early production work on that. Not exactly ready to give you more information than what was in that little short teaser just yet, but we will be very soon. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, I don't think I have any announcements at the top of this stream. Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. So that's what we're working on right now. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Solid,
it.
solid.
That's the whole thing. Yeah, no. So I think we're done here. All right, later, everybody. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah,
And
cool. All right, great stream, everyone.
okay, cool. See you later.
I don't know what this was. I don't.
Yeah. What were you doing?
Oh, I
Are
think
you
it was.
like
I think it was blowing the curtain.
curtains? The curtain. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, very.
I understand. Okay,
Because
cool.
because currently that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. No one questioned that authority.
No need to ask any more questions.
Newly human's gonna come at me right now.
Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming by and hanging out with us tonight. Tonight we're just doing a bit of a free range ramble. We're just talking about kind of whatever happens to be the burning topic in our brain, and then kind of going wherever that goes. So, I'm famously aggressive. Great. Yes. Yeah. Great. Yeah, let's see. I saw Cam. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you have a good lurk. And
Alright, Cam's coming for me.
I saw Kate here. Hello, Kate. Welcome. And of course, newly human, the one, the only, perpetually newly experiencing
Perpetually
the
fresh.
world as a perpetually fresh. Yeah. Um, Chance, hello. Good to see you.
Chance, hello.
It's
And
great
Cam
to
is absolutely roasting me because, as I was mentioning to Lucas and Freeman beforehand, today happy Tears of the Kingdom Day for all of you Zelda fans out there. And I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom pretty much all day, and I just discovered about 45 minutes ago that there are not 2 but 3 new full-size maps. Compared to Breath of the Wild's just one that was, I think, smaller than Tears' main Hyrule map. And about 40 minutes ago, I realized that I was physically dizzy.
That's not great. That's not. Yeah.
I jumped down a well, discovered essentially the Skyrim edition of Blackreach underneath Hyrule, after already trying to kind of keep track of 2 different maps in my head for a new game with new systems.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brain was like, oh no. And the steam just started coming out of my ears. So yeah,
that's what you want, right? Like, you want the risk of actually falling down in real life when you're playing a video game. Like, that's what you want. I think that's the sweet spot for video games.
Yeah, if your video game isn't making you feel physically ill, why are you playing?
Real gamers know. Real gamers understand.
I can't play. Kate says I can't play until next week because it's Tech Week for my show. And I'm kind of playing a bunch today because I don't think I'm going to be able to play very much for the next couple of days.
Yeah.
I'm getting my launch day hype in, and then the next most I'm probably going to be able to play is a couple hours on stream on Monday because I have chores and work mostly.
Yeah. I think that game will be my special treat to myself at the end of the month when I've got through some work stuff. Yeah, that's fair.
It's a good and responsible. It is both a good and responsible. It's a good treat for yourself and also a responsible treat to give yourself later when you know that you're done with many things, because I did fully sit down to play it at noon, got up at 2:30 to make lunch, and then it was 7:15. And I was kind of just like, oh,
Yeah.
right.
Oh, man.
As a person with ADHD, that whole line of logic makes complete sense to me, right? Like the waiting to reward yourself with a thing after you do a thing you have to do. Total sense. I can logic that perfectly fine in my brain. Totally useless for me. Does not help me because my brain immediately goes, okay, sure, yeah, but like I could just still not do the thing and have my reward. I could just do it now. I'm the one in charge of that. So yeah.
I will not be releasing any happy chemicals unless you do the other thing first.
It's true. It's true.
You see, I hold all of the marbles in this situation.
I live a life of constantly chasing dopamine, which becomes ever more and more elusive.
Shit.
Anyway, John, what do you got for us?
John, what do you got for us? I have to follow that. No.
So why do you think I filled this with water?
Yeah, of course. What else? What other clear liquids are there besides water?
It's actually just straight vodka that I'm just slamming right now. No, that's not.
Water extra, mate. It's called water extra.
It's spicy water.
Yeah,
Sure.
no, I mean,
Hmm?
I was probably just gonna ramble until I arrived at something interesting to say.
I think that's on brand for this show. I think we're just sort of
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, obviously, my brain is very preoccupied with open world game thoughts right now, which I know we all play a fair bit of.
I've never played an open world game in my life.
Yeah, open world survival crafting game with base building elements doesn't sound
No,
like a.
that's not a thing that I do. Yeah.
No, of course not.
It's been a while though for me. So
That's fair. Yeah.
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 That's a game. Okay, so I really want to play The Forest at some point, whether it's like offline or online, because there's building elements in there, and there's also like freaky like horror stuff that happens in the woods sometimes.
There sure
I really
is.
want to get. I haven't played video games in a while. I think what I want to do is, besides what we do here streaming wise, I do want to play something spooky at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's May, so we are moving towards spooky season. So it's spooky season is almost upon us. It is May after all.
It's closer than it was. Not in May.
It's closer than it was 5 minutes ago. So yeah.
Yes.
Jen says, I've only played about an hour of a Zelda game because reasons. What popular games have you guys not been able to join in for whatever reason? Also, I know I have good answers to this. I have to think
That's a
about
great
it for a
question.
second, though.
Yeah, same. Oh my gosh.
I was really late to the party on Hollow Knight, which I just beat this week. But that wasn't really so much like a can't play as didn't get to. Actually, I have a decent answer for this one. BioShock.
Yeah.
Yeah, BioShock. I know, like, when the original BioShock came out, I think I didn't have the right console for it. And that was a game that, like, playing it after the hype had subsided, it just didn't.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, no, you're right, because I think what happened is that because the same thing happened to me after the fact, so many other games took the things about BioShock that were like unique and interesting and ran with them, and then I played and even improved upon them, and I played those games, and so then going back to BioShock was like, I tried. I gave it an honest try, and I was just like, I can't do this. I've like, I don't know. I have missed the boat on this game. But yeah.
Yeah, same.
I think that was definitely like the BioShock series, I think kind of was one like that for me, because I think I wound up getting Infinite, but then my laptop couldn't handle it, so I just couldn't play it. Like, I had the game, but I just couldn't play it until I got a better computer, and then I finally upgraded my computer and I played through it, and I was like, oh,
I'm sorry, it's a series?
Yeah, there's BioShock
there's
1
more
and
than
2,
one?
1 and 2, and then there's Infinite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I really missed the boat then.
Yeah, apparently Infinite is is like the best iteration in the series, so I've heard, but Honestly,
Well,
I'm so like, I don't know. Yeah.
I watched it played many years ago. We
Hmm.
both did at the same friend's house, and
Yeah.
it looked great. It looked really cool. And then I never had a system to play it on, and forgot
Mhm.
about it. And so there the
Yeah.
boat went.
Yeah. And
And
I think
I did wind up playing at least Infinite. But definitely it was a game where like I played it and then once I knew the twist from the ending, I was kind of like I don't ever need to play this
I'm
again.
trying to think of what else. Most.
Yeah, I'm with Bree on this one. I know Lucas, you've played a lot of Fallout, but
Mm-hmm.
Fallout is another one that I think I just like missed.
Mm.
I think it was another case of like didn't quite have the system for it, or like and most of the Skyrim series, frankly, like I played Skyrim,
It
or
hurts my
like most of
feelings that
the
you called it the Skyrim series, but continue.
it's the Oblivion,
Nope.
the Oblivion. No,
It.
no, the Elder Scrolls.
There you
There
go.
we go. I had to work my way backwards. Fuck. The Elder Scrolls series.
Mm-hmm.
Like I haven't played Morrowind. I haven't played Oblivion. Like I feel like my MO is kind of just to to play like the third or fourth entry in this series, and I'm oh if I play any of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of. Oh man, there was one I was just thinking of, and now it's. I mean, some of the games that I haven't gotten in on just yet are because of, like, I am morally opposed to. That's exaggerating, but I don't like the idea of paying $70 for a game, and a lot of the like big releases recently are like climbing up there, which like I understand production costs and people need to get paid and all that, but like that's fine, but I don't have to be the one to do it to pay them. So and I can think of a lot better things to spend $70 on, so I usually just wait for a long time until a game is, and then if when the price drops I still want to play it, then I'll get it. But like sometimes I just like don't want to after a while, like the hype dies down and I'm just like, all right. So
Yeah, I think there is a certain element with like big games and stuff like this too, because I I don't exactly have $70 to throw around super often, so
yeah.
I seldom buy a game at its release unless I am
Yeah.
like essentially 100% confident that I
Yeah.
know it's going to be
Or
a
like
good game.
I'm just like really really excited about it. Like there are very rare
Mhm.
games where when they come out I have more than just a like, oh, that'd be fun kind of reaction. And like there are some where I'm like, okay, I need to play this as like soon as humanly possible. And in fairness, most of the games that I bought recently at their launch price and on like on or shortly after launch day happened around the time when I got the new computer, when I was actually able to play those games, and that was mainly the motivation behind it. I was like, hell yeah, I can play the newest games, and these are ones that I'm interested in, so I'll get this one. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah, that definitely helps. Yeah, I think a lot of times it is cost for me. Like I don't want to drop
yeah,
$70 on a game that may or may not be good that I may or may not like. And a lot of times I like to wait and
yeah,
see what people think of it, what the reaction to it is. And if there are still people that are like, yeah, this is a great game 6 months or a year later, then I'll pick it up,
yeah,
usually on sale.
Mhm.
yeah.
But
That's kind of like,
And sometimes it's good to wait for bugs too. Some games have like bugs and patches that need to be, sorted out. So that's also a
I'm
good thing too to wait for, just to see how that.
honestly, I know that really bothers a lot of people, and like you're right, it's a completely valid reason to like wait. I
Depends on,
absolutely
yeah.
agree. It doesn't usually bother me unless they're fully game breaking,
mhm.
but like I don't I it's rare that even in games like Cyberpunk that had like fully game breaking bugs that I run into
Mhm.
those game breaking bugs, right? Like it's so rare that it doesn't really bother me that much. I don't know. I like the weird like quirky things. Like obviously would I rather the bugs not be there? Absolutely I would rather the bugs not be there, but at the same time I'm like, you know what? I am playing a pretty fucking cool game right now, and they're like, I can see all the work that went into this shit, and like
Yeah,
it's
that's fair.
fine with me that like there's a few weird hiccups every once in a while, like NPCs walking around T-posing. I'm like, that's just kind of funny. Or the car water fountain in Cyber, that was hilarious.
Oh yeah, or that time that we found that I was watching you and I think I commented on it because you were doing something else in the street and I was just watching your stream and there was a guy who was walking up to like a vending machine and he'd get like a sandwich and then walk away and come back and get a drink and then walk away and come back and get a sandwich and then walk away and come back and get a drink and he was just
it was
stuck in a
literally it
loop.
was the same guy because then I started paying attention, like watching him just sort of those kind of things
I
don't
enjoy that.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, and like
I
I
mean,
understand
yeah.
people getting like pissed off about like, oh, this AAA release, from a major company is coming out unfinished. And I do think that there are some things definitely to criticize in that, specifically crunch. It shouldn't happen, people. It shouldn't happen. But so like I understand that. Absolutely, there's valid arguments there. That said,
Mhm.
at a certain point, like the devs kind of are under pressure to release the game from the money
Yeah,
people, and the money people don't give a shit about whether the game is good or not. They just want it out so that they can get a return on their investment. So like it's really
absolutely.
not the
It is.
devs' fault. And I'm not
Yeah.
gonna sit here and like be like, this is stupid. I should have blah 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 whatever. Like I'm gonna, if I want to play the game, I'm gonna get the game, and so yeah.
Yeah, no, like I think if devs had their way, like games would come out when they come out, but
Yeah,
there's some middle ground that has to happen between the people at the top who have a lot of money who want to whose game is spreadsheet management and
absolutely, yeah.
ensuring that the numbers are bigger this quarter than they were last quarter.
Yes, exactly. Um, Kate says, I don't blame the devs, but I do usually wait for the game until the game has had patch chances. That's completely fair. Yeah, like I get it. I completely understand. And I'm not saying that one way or is better or another. I'm just saying for me personally, it doesn't bother me. I do understand why it would be an issue for others, but yeah. Um, but yeah, no, that's a completely fair reason. Newly Human said something interesting, which I very much agreed with, which was I have never bounced off a game as hard as I bounced off Horizon Zero Dawn. I kind of feel the same way, not because of anything, because I've never actually played the game, but it's like every time I'm like I like the idea of the game, and I go and I want to play it, and I'm like, oh, it's on sale, I could just get it now, and then I look at it for 2 seconds, and I'm like, nah, maybe I don't want to, and then I don't, and I think enough time has gone by that if I try now, it'll be a Bioshock situation where I'm just like, well, it's the moment passed, and like,
I like I'm torn on that one because I've played about
right,
half of Horizon Zero Dawn now at this point. And I think my biggest barrier, honestly, with HCD is I struggle to play those games unless I am awake enough to be engaged in the story. And recently, I've been really tired, and so when I get
yeah,
to playing video games, I'm like, all I have in me is like either a strategy game that does not require the use of any of my mechanical skills, or I have or I have keep hands busy and watch pretty explosions on the screen in me.
yeah,
And like games like Horizon Zero Dawn, and like I use this term not disparagingly, Far Cry clones. Um,
yep,
they all have the exact same menu and upgrade system
yep,
with slight variations. Like Far Cry and Horizon Zero Dawn and the Shadow of the Tomb Raider and
yeah.
like those
No,
style of games.
it's funny that you say that because that I think is exactly, you've just put your finger on exactly the thing that has made me kind of bounce off of Horizon Zero Dawn. Because every time I look at it, I'm like, this feels like a Far Cry clone type thing, and while I like those games sometimes, I'm rarely in the mood to play and to start a new one. If anything, if I
Mm,
feel in the mood to play one, I'll go back and play one that I've played before and know I like. You know?
yeah. Yeah, and it's just like it's mechanically very engaging, and also there's a lot of story elements for me to try and like and threads to like track because it is really cool. It's a really interesting world, and I like it a lot. But my
Mm-hmm.
brain has to be on enough
Yeah.
to like listen to not just like click 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 click
Hmm.
click 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 through like the dialogue because then I'm going to miss something important.
Yeah. Cam said that's been me with No Man's Sky. I actually agree. I'm kind of the same way. Every time, like, hypothetically, I'm like, I would like this game, and having friends who know the things that I like tell me you would like this game, but then I look at it and I'm like, but I don't want to. Every time. And every single time I'm like, oh, it's on sale. I'll buy it now. And then I go to do it, and I cannot quite make myself click the button. So, like, at this point, I'm just kind of, you know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it it I like that game a lot, but I also have to be it's like movie energy for me where like if I'm going to watch a movie, I kind of have to have the right level of energy and the right
Yeah.
kind of energy to want to sit down and watch a 2 hour movie. Um,
Yeah.
so
That.
it,
Sorry.
it it's a similar kind of thing, and I'm
I'm.
also like
I'm now
fully
also very.
distracted by like the naming.
Yes, absolutely. I'm now invested now in Kate's naming of characters. I'm like my eyes keep going down. I'm like, and then my brain is going, no, don't apologize at all. Like this is what we do. This is what we do.
Absolutely.
Ramblemancy is designed. We're not talking about anything important. We're just talking about video games.
Oh yeah, no. We've been following a thread about like missing big games and like why we miss those kind of things. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, Protector Osmar Bard game is moon
That's very cool.
themed.
See, if I have the time to just sort of like sit and think, I'm actually pretty good at coming up with names. But now that I have specifically been asked to name something, I've never named anything in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
I understand.
Shan says that energy mood. No, I can't watch this 2 hour movie, but I will watch this 1 hour episode. Yeah, absolutely. This is a thing that I have struggled to understand myself, Chans, which is the whole like I don't have the attention span for a movie, but I will get sucked into like hour-long episodes for like 6 hours and just
Hmm.
like get sucked into it. And I don't know why, but I'm sure there is like an actual psychological explanation for this. But yeah.
It's got it's got to be something about the pacing of the two different forms of media,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
the way that a show is paced is designed to kind of like it's paced differently than a movie, right? Which is like a 2 hour movie is kind of like more like a marathon from point A to point
Hmm.
B with the in terms of its story. And I feel like this is something I think, especially when I went from like watching a bunch of Star Wars series to going back and watching like an episode or like Rogue One or something like that, where I was just like, oh my god, I'm dizzy. This is so fast. Everything's happening so fast. And I'm like, oh no, wait, this is just how film works.
I think
Um,
that's also part of it too, right? Is that like with film you have to go, at least for me, and maybe this is an ADHD thing, but maybe it's not, but like for me, like the work of like getting yourself invested has a shorter span of time within which to give you like payoff for that kind of investment.
mhm.
And so like you get invested in characters and the story and whatever, and by the time you're like, yeah, this is cool, I'm in, and then it's over. And I don't know that like that's the kind of thing that maybe like attention span in this case maybe is more about like the attention span of your ability to be in your investment. I don't know. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's something there. I don't quite know enough about any of it, but I'm guessing that's probably what sets my brain off, where I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah.
I can watch a I can watch a few episodes of a show as compared to watching a movie right
Well,
now.
and this kind of goes back to the thing that I've been saying forever and will continue to say forever is that my issue with Star Wars being primarily movie formatted as opposed to now where we're moving into shows, a show format, is that the Star Wars galaxy has always been way too big to explore in any meaningful sense in a 2.5 hour movie, you know? Like,
Yeah.
because everything that is in a movie, the thing about movies is that everything that's in them has to serve a purpose, right? Like, it has to serve a purpose towards the plot to move things forward and whatever, and you don't get a lot of time to just sort of explore and be in places. And it just feels, it's gotten to the point now where I think there aren't that many people who know how to make a Star Wars movie feel good. Or at least if there are, then they haven't been given a chance to do it. Because all I've felt from like the movies, and I including the ones that I've liked, like yes, I did like Solo, shoot me, but like including the ones that I liked, they just felt like they were just rushing through. Like I kind of had this weird like breathless feeling afterwards, where I was just like, I'm like that was a whole bunch of stuff that just got thrown in front of my face, and like we never got a chance to sit with any of the cool things that were in it.
Yeah, that's the way that I feel about a lot of those, especially when I come off of the pacing of like episodic Star Wars content. I think it's episodic stuff in general, which recently has been a lot of Star Wars for me. But
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I just It's...
Nearly Human says, I have a designated time every week during which I watch movies, and that helps. That's not a bad idea, honestly.
Yeah.
Ooh, hold on.
I think it takes me a while. Like I really do have to be in the right mood to watch a movie. Like Cole and I watched a movie the other night just because like we were like, hey, you know what, movie night, that sounds good, and we just did that. Side note, but it is related because it's the movie that we watched. But like, the Shazam movies have really gotten the shaft. Like everybody talks about how DC is garbage, and like in general, I agree. Like their movies are not great, but Shazam is incredible. Like I love those movies, both of them. I just watched the sequel the other night. It's great. I love that movie. It's at least as good as the first one. I don't know.
Damn.
It's just they're good.
I've not seen either.
But
Shit.
like none of them are being advertised. Like so many times I'll go to talk about them to somebody and they'll be like, I didn't know that was a movie. And I'm like, how?
I see it constantly. I haven't watched either, but
Yeah.
I do see previews for them, for the second one, that is, recently, all the time.
I'm the only person.
How do you miss that?
I'm the only person you've heard talk positively about the second one. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to watch it again and like develop more sophisticated opinions. I always say that like you watch something the first time and you're just experiencing it. The second time you get to think about it, and I haven't had that opportunity yet. But like, I don't know. On first flush, I don't know that I had any real complaints about the movie. I don't know that I think it was. Was it an amazing movie? I don't know. Probably not. I wouldn't even know what standard to judge that by. But like, I enjoyed it, and I thought it was consistent with the character and with like, I don't know. Yeah. Good, Bree. That's a correct opinion. That's a correct opinion.
I need to watch the first one.
It's great. I love Zachary Levi. Zachary Levi is like one of my favorite actors because he's so good. Hey, it's Allison.
Whoa.
But yeah.
Kate waves in character creation mode.
Pretending still know how to prep for sessions. You know what? We really haven't talked about TTRPGs in a while, and since there's like character naming going on in the chat and also session prep happening, we might as well, right? I mean, like, it is a little bit what we made this channel for.
Right. You know,
Like,
tabletop RPGs or something like that. Didn't
Why are
Matt
we
make a command to make fun of me for talking about game design the other day?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that happened. So
yeah, I'm reasonably certain that Matt made like 4 new counters the other day.
yeah.
Matt was on a spree.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bree says, I think a lot of problems with a lot of the franchise movies is that they always make things too complicated.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Movies always feel like there's a race to the finish line, and like the
Yeah.
show's kind of giving it the time it needs, I think.
I agree. I think that's a huge problem. But yeah, I think, you know what? I think that's actually a really solid way of transitioning into TTRPGs. Pacing in
Yeah.
TTRPGs is super important. Um, that's so I don't know if I have a specific thing about like pacing in TTRPGs, but uh, what actually, you know what? Let's turn this into a question. What do you guys have like opinions about pacing in TTRPGs? Like, I'm curious. Like, you, Freeman and John, but also like y'all in the chat. Do you have opinions about pacing? Um, like it could be any opinion.
I think pacing, like, I feel like pacing is one of the things that gets talked about a lot when people are starting to run games, right? When people are looking at GMing like Dungeons and Dragons or GMing their first tabletop RPG, pacing is something that I feel like comes up often. Like, yeah, it's hard to get pacing right. Figuring like go too slow, and then like things get like bogged down or boring, or you like everybody loses interest and go too fast, and then like people feel kind of lost. Like finding that sweet spot in terms of pacing your game um, is like a thing that I think comes up and has probably been talked to death. But I don't know. The thought that I just had was like how much do we talk about pacing from the player side of things, at least for systems with a game master, and like how do
Yeah.
you like the game master is not the sole arbiter of pacing, I think, and I feel like that's maybe something that's lost in those conversations
Hmm.
about
Yeah.
like how to pace your game,
That's really
right?
interesting.
How can you as a player help your GM?
Mm.
Like if you see that the other players are getting mired in things, like you can either just above table be like, "Hey, I think we're overthinking this.
Oh.
Why don't we just step back or move on?"
I am notoriously the player at the. I don't often get to be a player at a table, but I am notoriously the player who like gets like fed up with people examining absolutely everything. I think that like a very specific instance, John, was a game that you and I were both playing in, where like we took like 10 minutes as everybody was like examining this portcullis door that like in a dungeon. Like, okay, we got to make sure that there's no trap. We got to get through it. We got to do this and whatever. And like at a certain point, I just got fed up, and I'm like, I walk through the door, and I am
Yeah.
notoriously that player. I'm the one who like makes things happen. I'm an instigator, and that's not always a positive trait. I will say that that's not always
Mm-hmm.
a positive trait because you do sort of have a tendency of stepping on other people's toes sometimes. Uh, but yeah, I agree. I think that conversation. You're right. That conversation doesn't happen too often from the like from the player's side because, and I think it's important,
Mm.
right? Because the number of times where I'm like have this cool like set piece or like cut scene or whatever as a GM, and I put it out there, and like the players don't realize that that's what I'm doing, and then they like try to act during it. I'm like, guys, I promise you, you're gonna have a chance to do all the cool things you want to do. But give me like 2 seconds, and yeah. Actually, Allison and I were having a conversation similar to this the other day about something very similar to this. Um, but yeah, and I think like specifically, sorry, I realized we just like I just asked for your opinion, and now I'm just like you gave it, and now I'm just like going off on a thing. So I will shut up.
That's all right. Do it.
Oh
But
no, go
like,
for it.
but this is I feel like this is the point that I was reaching, which is, uh, like Kate said here in the chat was like I think that's such a discussion to have with um that people have to have with their players too because it matters what expectations are on the table. Frustration point is always people not jumping on the hook in terms of helping the GM. Like it's right there, and I agree. But I also think this is kind of one of those like reciprocity situations, right? Where like the conversation I had with Allison the other day had a situation where like players being unaware of what the expectations were, having failed certain roles, um, and now the consequences were coming, right? And now the consequences are like she's like trying to do like show like kind of like the consequences of failing those roles, and players are still trying to act without being aware that like it's over, you failed the roles, and now it's time to like move on to what happens next. And there was what I realized was that in that conversation, what I realized in that conversation was that part of that, I think, and the way that I deal with it at my table is one of my hangups there before reaching what I do now was I was always way too preoccupied about trying to keep that element of surprise, right? Like the players, like their characters don't necessarily know what's going to happen, so why should the players know? But surprise is fine, but it is a tool that I think needs to be used a lot more sparingly than most, like particularly new GMs use it. And second, I think surprise is good when you're talking about plot and like story stuff, but when you're talking about mechanics, you definitely do not want to surprise your players. Right? You want to make them aware of the expectations. And so the thing that I've taken to doing is just saying, okay, we're in a skill challenge now. If you succeed, this happens. If you fail, this is what's going to happen. Let's go. And like that way you set the expectations right at the top. And what I've found is it doesn't take away from any sort of tension or whatever, which I think is was my hesitation before I started doing that. If anything, it just amps the tension up. And I think, Freeman, you could probably speak to this because you've been on the other side of my doing this. You've been on the player side of my doing this, where like telling you the expectations, like telling you what will happen if you succeed or fail. Just if anything, it amps the tension up because now you know what the stakes are.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say, you know exactly what the stakes are now, so now you have to get creative and put your get down to business for sure.
Yeah,
Pull out all the stops.
for sure. And like, I think being explicit about the consequences of any one role is one of the ways that you can actually like to like keep the conversation centered on pacing. Like, I think making the consequences of any one role or action like explicit as the game master is a fairly good way of keeping things moving. So like for instance, when you initiate like a skill challenge in D&D, Lucas, you're like, okay, success looks like this, failure looks like this. You've now created like a framework for people to work within, and they know like, okay, if we fail, then this happens, and we have to adjust to that. And if we succeed, then this happens, and we respond to this accordingly. It gives people, I think, something to work towards or to like jump off of in terms of like role player, how they're going to use their resources. So I think in general, like as a player, people tend to be fairly conservative with their use of things. They're like, if I don't have to use a spell here, or if I don't have to use up my resources here, I want to use the least amount possible. At least most often, that's how people play.
Yeah.
Right? The traditional like hoarding all of my potions until the BBEG fight, or like trying to get my like skate through on only cantrips in every combat in the dungeon so that I can go absolutely Nova for 3 turns on whatever boss monster I come to, and being explicit about the consequences of a roll or an action or a fight or something like that, I think gives players a better idea of like, okay, I should use a spell about this.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting. And like first of all, Allison, you're welcome. Always happy to like talk you through that stuff. But also like that feeling of like when you do something and you have to like take your players and go and like kind of metaphorically shake them by the shoulders and go, stop. Like we're moving on now. It doesn't feel good, and it does feel like you failed as a GM, but like I think the important thing with that, like we talked about, is just to kind of like, you know, go one of two ways, and that is either be open and honest with your players about what happened in that session, or be open and honest with yourself, and make sure like say, what went wrong, how did it go wrong, and is there a way I could have prevented it, and so that next time I can do a different thing. And like those are very important things to be doing. But I think like I Newly Human just said, my group's GM, who I adore, way overestimates my ability to pick up on subtle signposts to consequences, and now we're facing a potential TPK because of that. I've done it. I've been there. I've done that. John can tell you he was in that game where like the players asked a random passerby about rumors, and so I made something up for the sake of like making the world feel big and interesting and cool, and like things were happening in it that weren't directly involved with the players, but all the players immediately assumed, aha, the main quest has arrived. And I was like, no, that's not what this is. But
Yeah, like I thought
than,
it was like like asking the NPC for rumors in like an RPG, and like the like strange witch in the bog to the south is bolded, like strange witch bog and to the south are all like bolded in a different color because the game is telling you that's a quest.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, and it was one of the worst arcs of a TTRPG I've ever run because of a misalignment of expectations and understanding of the situation. And I was so like I was trying so hard to keep that like verisimilitude that of the world, that just like, it didn't even occur to me to say to my players, guys, this isn't a quest. This is just, you asked for rumors and I'm trying to like tell you about things that are happening in the world. You've already because like the context of this was the players had decided already. I'd wanted them to like determine their own paths, and they determined their own path, what they were doing. This happened when they were on their way to the thing they had already decided to do. But I guess for whatever reason with this particular group, it felt to them, and like I assume, and through like conversations with them afterwards, it felt to you guys like it wasn't a real quest unless I, the GM, had given it to you. And so like when I did tell you something that sounded like a quest hook, you jumped on it because like, oh, okay, here's the real quest. This is what the GM wants us to do and what the GM prepared.
Yeah, right.
And it was the opposite. I had prepared nothing, and it was a total unmitigated disaster. Because I couldn't just come out and say, guys, no, that's not, you already have a quest. You decided what you were going to do.
Yeah, and like that's again, I think where it's super important to be like, you know, this is a game. You can be like, oh, pause button. Just to be clear, guys, I didn't prep anything here. I just made something cool sounding up. The actual stuff I prepped is in that direction.
Yeah. And like that just kind of has to be okay sometimes. Like, it doesn't feel good. It certainly breaks a certain amount of verisimilitude, but sometimes in order to preserve the game itself and like the act of people having fun at the table, sometimes you gotta do it. You gotta sacrifice the suspension of disbelief for the sake of everybody continuing to have a good time. And there's orders of priority here, and the top one is everybody having a good time. Like,
yeah,
it really be that way sometimes. Though that's it really do.
Yeah.
A running theme, I think, recently for me is make sure you're having fun when you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing for recreation, John. You know, like if a game or an activity that you're participating in is frustrating or making you angry, then just walk away from it for a while. Do that.
Yeah.
There are other games that you can play. There are other things that you can do with your other hobbies that you can engage yourself in. And the same is kind of true here. Like, the highest order of concern here is having a good time. And so if that ceases to be true, then like just take a few steps back and be like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
No, it's worth breaking the suspense of the game for that. I agree.
Yeah. And yeah, Allison said this is why I love Roses and Thorns or Stars and Wishes. It's so important to be able to discuss things openly as a group so that you can make the game more fun for everybody. And yeah, I had never heard of Stars and Wishes when I first started running the game, but I would periodically make sure to end my session a few like maybe like half an hour early or so, and like use it as a time to check in with everybody. Like, is there anything else you'd like to see more of? Like maybe you and definitely sometimes I got commentary like, oh, I'd love to see more of these. Like, we've been doing a lot of combats with like single monsters, but like that combat that we just did with like a bunch of monsters or people or whatever was super fun and dynamic, and I'd like more of that. I've gotten that comment before, because I think there was a while there where my tendency was to just sort of throw single boss monsters at my players and call it good. But yeah, like that kind of stuff is super important to talk about because it's, you as the GM might be aware of the things that you did well or could do better, but your players also probably have stuff that they want to like, talk about. And I think, like Allison said, having the stars and wishes gives them a platform to do it in a way that they might otherwise just be like, I wasn't happy about that, but it's fine. So unless they're given like explicit permission to say these things, sometimes that won't happen. So
again, as before with describing the consequences of any action that you take in the game, like it creates a framework for engaging in those kind of conversations. You can run the command up, a scaffold.
Yep. But yeah, no, it's good stuff. Sorry, I'm gonna catch up with chat here because I saw like some cool stuff in here.
Someone can exclamation point teacher me for that one.
My
My editor was talking to me today about a section that I wrote, and I was like, yeah, I flipped into lesson planning brain for part of that section, and it's very evident to me in post.
Yeah. On the subject of like the way that players tend to approach situations, I think it's very interesting being a player after. Hey, there it is. Thanks, Kate. There on the subject of as a person who is most often a GM, I find that I play my character like a GM. So like I play into whatever like the GM has like story beats or whatever that like, and I play into those things. But also, as far as using my abilities, my thoughts, I play my character the way in combat like I play a GM. Like I would be as a GM, which is like I have these cool things that I can do, and I'm gonna do them, and like, and that's kind of
Sorry, Kate said I missed it because I'm also a teacher. So that's just how people talk. Yeah. It creeps in every so often. I was an English teacher, and then I was a substitute teacher for a while, and now I play video games and make tabletop RPGs for what I do, and it's wild. It never leaves you.
Oh my gosh, Karaoke Night says, yes, now that I know the secrets, I can't go back. It's true. Once you're on the other side of the GM screen, like, you just play different. Like, you just play, you play the game differently. You look at, and it's true going the other way too. Like, honestly, when there was a like 6 month period, like I make jokes about being a forever GM, but honestly, that's my comfort zone. I the things that I enjoy about TTRPGs, are the things that you experience as a GM, and not so much the things that you experience as a player. That's not to say I don't have fun as a player. I definitely do and have. But like I will say there was a period of time where we took a break from our main campaign in our home game, and one of the players decided to run for everybody, and it was about a 6 month span of time that he was running a campaign, and I gotta say just that span of playing as a player in a game for a long time drastically altered the way I approached being a GM. Because it puts it into perspective. It puts the other side of the screen into perspective. You're not always thinking that way. When you have one turn in combat, right? When you have one turn in combat, that is the one turn that you have in that round. It matters so much whether you roll good or bad, and it feels great or terrible, respectively. Right? It has such a bigger impact. As opposed to when you're on the other side of the screen, you're like, oh, no, I rolled a 1. Whoops, I guess it's not a big deal. Because, like, not only are you controlling probably multiple creatures in combat, but also
you kind of want to lose.
You kind of want to lose. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of... As the GM, your job is to make your players think you're trying to win while actively trying to lose.
Right. Truly. Right? Like, if I'm really playing to kill you, it's got to be a very specific kind of game.
The only time I've ever done that, like because I have done it. The only time I've ever played to kill a specific PC is usually when it's something that is like highly dramatic, very specific to the character, that character's backstory, right? Like, I think most of the time when player characters have died in my campaigns, it has been something tied to their backstory. And the only times I ever played, I ran the game with a high lethality kind of thing, no holds barred, is when the stakes matched that energy, you know?
Yeah.
But at no other time. And I think part of it is learning how to dial in and dial out. But the thing is, when you're on the other side of the screen, you don't know any of that shit. Like,
Yeah.
and so it changes once you have that experience of being on the other side of the screen. It changes, like, it changes how you approach it from the other side. I know I became a much more understanding and compassionate GM after spending a lot of time as a player, and I feel bad that it took that for me to do, like, that it wasn't just something that I had already, but at the same time I'm glad that I had the experience of learning that, you know, of like, but yeah, and it completely changed how I did things. Now, did I overcompensate after that a little bit and just err too much in the favor of saying yes to my players? Yeah, I did that, but that's a totally separate thing that we don't need to talk about right now.
Yeah, no, like there's thoughts. I
I'm
had a
just here
thought
for the
that
chaos.
just raced away.
I will say chaos a few more times before I'm super done, just like shenanigans. I said
Good.
this the other day. I am so done with shenanigans. But I'm here for the chaos. I think it's mostly because like I've been playing with a group for a long enough time that we trust each other, and so the chaos is fun. I'm here for whatever happens, even if it breaks my heart. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was more to that, but I lost it. I hope, John, you remembered your thought though.
Nope, it's
Didn't mean
gone
to-
forever. It just I had it. There was something in the vein, like right before what Lucas said of the second thing that Lucas said, but I had two ideas at once, and instead of like one piggybacking on the other and like walking to the finish line, they crashed into each other, and then like matter and antimatter meeting just like explosively canceled each other out.
Yeah.
Man, that's heavy, man. That's heavy. Yeah.
Kate said,
All that's
and
left in there is just a little monkey with symbols. Like,
there you go. Kate said, and if the GM is actively playing to kill you, you probably know why and may have discussed it depending on the session. Yeah, it's true. It's very true. Yeah. There have been times for sure where I like, I once and only once TPK'd a party, only one time, and I did walk it back, but in a way that I felt was believable. Just the circumstance happened to line up. Okay, this is unrelated. Well, it's related, but like this is not a natural continuation of what I was talking about. If you are a newish GM, or even if you're not, and you're running combat for first level characters in D&D, spiders. Now I say spiders because their attacks are very deadly. Or deadly. They do a lot of damage, but they are explicitly not lethal. Like if a spider's attack knocks you down to 0 hit points, you're unconscious and paralyzed. Paralyzed? I don't know, something for like some number of hours. And a spider, like what a spider would do is like, you know, like Shelob, wrap you up and take you somewhere else, which is just another way of like it's failing forward, right? Because now the party, their thing is they wake up hours later and they have to like get themselves out of like their spider cocoons, you know, and then escape the spider's lair.
yeah, and like almost everyone that plays D&D has read The Hobbit, and now that's just in their head, like that bit from is that The Hobbit? Yeah, it's The Hobbit.
It is the Hobbit.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's like Spiders is The Hobbit. It's not Lord of the Rings.
So like that's my
The Hobbit.
that's my GMing at low levels pro tip. Use spiders. If you're worried about creating a combat that's like too tough for your players, spiders, because they are explicitly non-lethal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did.
Yep.
You're right, Allison. I paralyzed Talia with spiders at like level 2. Exactly, because I wasn't worried about it. I hadn't. You can go whole ham with spiders at like early levels, especially if you're trying to put the fear of God in your players early on, like spiders, because it will do the job of making them terrified of like enemies in this game, in the game that they're playing, but there's no real lethality on the table for that one. So like, at least not immediate lethality, right? Because now they have a new problem of like, instead of being just dead, they have a new problem that they have to solve. You know. And that's infinitely more interesting than like, sorry guys, I didn't know how strong these were gonna be, and
the Minotaur skeleton was on the same page as the other skeletons, and so I thought that I would just put one with it.
We can mulligan, we can backtrack, or we can roll up new characters. Like, not as satisfying as just having a new problem to deal with. And honestly, if you can find a way to like run every combat that way, whether they have like non-lethal attacks or not, that I think is the key to being like a master at running combat as a GM. If you can find a way of making even a failure in combat like just a new problem to solve, that's the sweet spot.
Oh my god, I just opened the page.
I'm not sure I would know how to do that.
Right, I was looking for. I did just want to go see what a Minotaur skeleton's stats were, because I know I've threatened other low-level players before, but only when I knew the group had a cleric and a paladin and bludgeoning weapons. But I opened to a note card that was tucked in there, and it just took me back to a very stupid joke from when I was running D&D a few years ago. Because it was a classic case of wrote the name down and then didn't think any further about it and realized that I just... This is Eric! This is Eric, but it's spelled like this, friends. I didn't read his name aloud to myself because I was just looking at an elf name generator. I was like, yeah, that's good, okay.
Oh.
And then I said it out loud, and then this fully derailed the like 20 minutes of the session of, I think cumulatively of the session of people just being, how is his name spelled again? What's your name again? How do you spell that?
Then we kept them. Then it devolved into like, once we'd like calmed down, it devolved into like us in like the text chat coming up with different incorrect ways of spelling Eric, like increasingly ridiculous ways. My favorite one of mine was just Rick. And...
yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Anyway, the reason that I wanted to go look at the skeleton page after I made that was, yeah, skeletons are AC 13, hit points 13, damage vulnerability to bludgeoning. And then Minotaur skeletons have 67 hit points and deal 2d12 plus 4 slashing damage, which on a crit could still one-shot like a level 2 or 3 character.
Oh my god, yeah.
Minotaur skeletons are terrifying.
Yes, they are. They
are easy to beat up, but they are terrifying.
Allison, that's terrible. And
Jeremiah,
your sibling, I hope they should feel bad about that one. I hope they do. Though I'm guessing they probably don't.
Oh,
Eric, also sub-teacher brain going, oh god, when looking at a student. Oh man, no. I feel that one in my soul, Kate. Going down and like you pause at it and immediately the kid or one of their friends speaks up and just says the name for you, and like you repeat it for roll call, and somewhere in your heart you're just like, thank you, child. Jeremiah is my fave spelling I've seen. That one's really good.
Oof.
Stop it.
Ooh.
Yeah, I feel like that's so many apostrophes. Somebody clip that so I can show my sibling. I remember a person I met called Athena who asked us to call her Tina. I just wasn't prepared for a mythical name to become so simple. Yeah, I suppose.
Oh my god. Karaoke night, that's cursed. That's cursed. Yep.
Man.
Oh.
Understand people of the world that when you name a child, you're not naming like just a baby. You are naming a person who will have to grow up and use that name for the rest of their life or until they are 18 and can legally change it.
And then go to the courthouse and be like,
like, I'd like to change my name. Okay, and then they look at it and like, oh, yeah. I'm like, oh.
That's you don't have free of charge.
Yeah,
Free of charge.
I'll waive the fee.
Yeah.
You met a pepper and soup. Oh my god. Wow.
Huh.
I can't deal with that. No, my mom is a preschool teacher,
Wow.
so like when new kids come into the class, I hear about the weird names.
Oh yeah.
Listen, I hear about the weird names. It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I used to work in like a day camp too, so like kids coming in and I'd be like, "Oh, what's your name?" Okay, you know. And not judging the kids, obviously. We're no shade to them. They didn't have a say in that. It's the parents that I side eye on that one.
No, every single time.
Yeah.
Every single time I'm side eyeing at a name, I'm never like, God, kid, you're weirdo.
No,
I'm like,
not.
you name your child that. There was a kid called Levi, and it was short for Leviathan.
Okay, that has circled back to just iconic at that point. I think that has just circled. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Whoa.
is Levi short for anything?
That's a good question.
I don't think so.
Is Levi an abbreviation of it, or is Levi just like a regular?
I think Levi is just a name.
Yeah.
On its
so
own.
that's fun because it's circled around. I think to the point where you go by Levi,
right?
And then like people are like, you're like, oh, it's short for something. And yeah, Leviathan, and you're like, everyone's like, what the fuck? That's cool.
Cactus Hug says, Lucas, I was just thinking about a story you told earlier, and hark the herald angels sing is getting to me. That is in fact a conversation that I had earlier today.
Leviticus, I think, is another.
Oh, yep, that is another one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Particularly awful book. It's short for Levante, which is Hungarian, but that's
okay.
specific.
Sure.
I figured there was some. It was a shortening of some thing, but
yeah, but like, yeah, my ex's name was Eve, and people were constantly asking her if that was short for something, and she was like, "Nope, it's just Eve." And yeah, it was like constantly like, although after a while, some people, one of her friends started calling her Evelyn just like as a joke, but like, yeah, she was constantly getting asked if that was short for something. She's like, nope, it's just Eve. It's short
Eve.
for
It's short for
but you're not wrong. The reason she's named that is because she was born on New Year's Eve. That's the reason she's called. Yeah.
Oh.
So you're
That's
not wrong. Cactus Hugs, you're not wrong. Yeah.
Chances okay, last name because I could go on. I have a friend named Sabrina, but she goes by Saber.
That's
she like
fucking
anime?
sick. Actually,
That's very cool.
That is dope. Yeah.
A kid in my school was named Mo, and it wasn't short for anything.
That kid is gonna have the easiest time learning how to spell. Probably have the easiest time learning how to spell their name.
N-O.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This makes me short. Think of a post that said Chris Pine is short for Christmas Pine Cone.
Those are some of my favorite memes, like T-Pain being short for Tylenol pain relief.
That's good.
That makes me laugh every
Damn.
time. It's so stupid, but it makes me laugh every time.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
Which is the opposite of Mo.
Yeah, I would say so. This is so how do we get here? Oh, TTRPG names. It's like how did we get here?
We started the conversation at help me name my character, and then we talked about pacing, and now we have circled all the way
Kate,
back.
I hope all this talk about names is helping you. Somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I agree with Chans. That's the most Greek name I think I've ever seen.
yep.
Seen written
Mhm.
out. But yeah, no, I mean originally we strayed far from the topic of like pacing and consequences and stuff like that in games.
Yeah.
Um, so it I don't know. We were somewhere in the vicinity
I'm
last I
sorry.
had any
I'm
thought.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just laughing because like I know we started out with Kate asking about like helping to name the character, but like in my head I'm just imagining Kate having like a list in front of them with like different spellings of the name Eric on it, and I can't get that out of my brain.
So which Eric variant will your
Yeah.
will your Aasimar protector Aasimar bard be? Kate, I need to know. Inquiring minds would like to know.
I mean, I just named a Goliath runekeeper Tonka Trucksworn. That's incredible. I'm very proud of you.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Just give
Um,
him like a yellow and black theme.
mm-hmm.
Big old Tonka trucks.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, just kidding. I had one more name that was the most epic. She was the vice president of a club I was in college. Valkyrie Savage. Val for short, of course.
Holy
Good
shit.
Oh,
God. See that those sound like names that people would choose, right? Or like make like alterations to their name to have a stage name. That's my name now. All
That's an
right. Actually,
incredible name. But that one's bad for a different reason because that one now you're just expecting too much from your child. Like that's now you're
oh
putting
God,
you're putting on the
I
weight
know,
of
right?
expectations on that child, and it's bad for a different reason.
Uh,
It's like with a name like Valkyrie
yeah,
Savage, and they just turn out to be just like a regular, normal fucking person. They don't do anything cool or interesting or particularly noteworthy. They just like that's yeah. I don't know. Anyway,
they're not like running. They're not running and breaking down Viking ships and just like kicking whole ass.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. They're not kicking ass.
That's like the thing that always got me
Uh,
right. Like in Spanish, like I mean, being Puerto Rican, not as much, but like it does happen. But like when like parents like Hispanic parents will name their children Jesus, and I'm like, that's a lot to live up to, my dude. That's a lot. That's too much. Maybe dial it back a little. Like keep it within reason. Like it's one thing to think a lot of your child. Absolutely do that. Maybe dial down the expectations
mhm.
just a little bit. Um,
hmm hmm
but yeah.
Got him. Karaoke night. I have changed your name in our D&D server, so.
Perfect. Yep.
Mhm.
Um,
My son, Jesus Cristobal.
yeah, that's a big name to live up to. It is. It's a huge. Yeah. Um, we're talking about names again. What if we talk about TTRPG stuff?
What if we bring this back around to tabletop RPGs for the last like 15 minutes? Oh man, I think I finally remembered what I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
about back in the conversation about GM stuff, which was Kate said something to the effect of like at least most often you've had a conversation with a GM, you know when they're like trying
Yeah.
when they're playing to kill you, and when you're kind of playing that like Dark Soulsy almost like kind of Dungeons and Dragons where you expect the game or the game master to punish mistakes with death. It's a very different type of game, but it stems from like setting up the expectations
Yeah.
for it, right?
Absolutely.
To make sure it's not poopy pants
Hmm.
butt face.
Well,
It is not poopy
now
pants butt face.
now it is no.
It
Um.
is butt pants poopy face, actually.
hmm,
Very
a co-
different, a very
common
distinguished name
common
of mine.
mistake. Um.
Mhm. It's a normal name where he comes from.
The things that are lost in translation.
I can't do this. I'm gonna go. Goodbye, everybody. See you later. I'm just gonna get up and walk away now. And
Yeah, see, last week
So,
Chan started telling me about poetry that the guy that Ernest Cline wrote in the 90s, and that made me get up and walk off. And now this week That makes Lucas walk off. So what's coming for you next week, Freeman? Who knows?
And I won't tell. We'll just have to find out live.
You never know, like you can't know it's coming is the thing. Like at some point the karmic cycles must
Look, we all have our
scales
limits.
must be balanced.
We all have our limits.
Oh, no, I know. And I've exited stage right and stage left. Sometimes the trap door.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it'll happen. It'll come for me again. I know.
Stairs.
Yeah,
I took the elevator out and I got the trapdoor again. That's
I was gonna
a
say,
lot faster. It expedites the process.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the day that you like.
You go out the top.
Freeman just levitates out of the screen.
Yeah, Freeman actually goes through through April Fools. Freeman just flips his setup, screws the table to the ceiling, tells none of us, manages to make the whole room look like it's right side up, and then just shimmies down the rope at some point.
It was, you know what, Allison. I was working my way there. Exit pursued by bear. It's I was working my. Would have gotten there eventually, but yes, thank you for doing it first.
Yeah.
Oh God, that just
I
reminds
thought
me
about
of
doing the. Sorry.
No, what were you saying?
Nothing. No, I was thinking about the upside down thing, but the problem is an hour and a half is a long time to be upside down. Everyone's gonna know I'm upside down.
Yeah,
That's all I gotta say. My face is Anyway, that's all. Sorry.
Homer Simpson your way out of there. Just
what was I gonna say? Oh, that just reminds me of when we were writing the recap for season 1 of Infinite Horizon, and somewhere in the script we had exits pursued by bear because some of the way something of the way that we phrased something sounded very much like exit pursued by bear, and so we just left it in the script. We didn't say it in the recording, but we left it in the script.
I do remember that. I do remember doing that.
Oh.
I remember Caitlin cackling for half an hour about
I think Caitlin was the one who typed it.
Oh yes, that's what made it that much. That's what made it so much funnier. Is that Caitlin was the one who did it, but was also the one cackling the most about it.
Amazing.
I think I will never be over the thing that Burns said about them at one point, which was find someone who finds you as funny as Caitlin Bruder finds herself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. It's true. Oh my gosh.
Man, those early Infinite Horizon writer's room and recap writing and stuff like that was always such a fucking fever dream.
Oh God, it was, especially those episodes where we kind of phoned it in. We kind of phoned in the recap. It's all right, fucking this shit happened, and then this happened, and then I guess there was some of that. Also, I guess if you care, this thing happened too. Goodbye.
Yeah, there were some where we were very meticulous about it because there was a lot of important plot stuff that had happened. And it was important that if somebody was going to go back to the recap, they had context for things that we were going to wrap in later. And then sometimes it was just I don't know. We talked about purple noodles for
or I don't know, man. They kind of just punched some guy. What more do you want from me? They kind of just punched a guy. I don't know what you want.
Bina Oba incinerated a guy by making a miniature sun on the surface of the planet.
Yeah,
it was really cool. Superhero shit, man.
Yeah,
Hashtag superhero shit, man.
Hashtag superhero shit. Karaoke night, that is not real. That's not a real thing. You were friends with 2 people named Catbird in high...
Not 1, but 2.
That's not a real thing. You cannot tell me that's a real thing.
Interesting.
I demand yearbook. I demand a yearbook picture.
Yeah,
I need a picture of that yearbook. Catbird and Catbird.
All right. Okay. I got you. That.
Okay. More acceptable. Editorializing
cool.
should be allowed in recaps.
Okay,
for sure.
The very funny thing is in our home game, we're doing like a Chult sort of sandbox campaign, and there is a character, our friend Kurai, who is playing a monk who like an orc monk who is like he's brand new to like adventuring, and magic still blows his mind, and he's kind of terrified of magic, and every new thing that happens he's kind of the just a guy in the situation, and gets thrown into like this dangerous land that is Chult. And if you know anything about Chult, you know that it's every bit as dangerous as a normal jungle, but then you add zombies and other undead into the mix, and also dinosaurs. That's Chult. Bad shit happens there all the time, and he's just like every new thing. So at one point, Allison convinced him to like do the recap in character, and it was maybe the funniest fucking thing. That it was like he was like the Michael Pena of our campaign, right? Like Michael Pena's character in Ant-Man doing the recap. Fucking hilarious. It was maybe, I think, thus far one of my favorite things that has happened in our Chult campaign.
And I missed it.
Yeah, I know you weren't there for that. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Allison, for allowing this, for like facilitating this. That was great. But yes, Newly Human, I agree. Editorializing should absolutely be allowed in recaps. It'll make them more interesting to listen to.
That was actually like a conclusion that I'm back. A conclusion that we came to the more we wrote those two, I think, was we kind of were like, we can just say shit that happened. That is the purpose of this recap, is just for a general idea of it. It was the best. For a while, for our I haven't been doing it for a few weeks because I think a couple of months at this point. But when I started playing my Inquisitive Rogue, we had a slide for every session that was my character's like ever evolving cork board. And that was how I was taking notes for the session. And It was a lot of fun, and I would like to start doing it again.
I love that, actually. That's a great way to take notes. I'm not a good note taker. I'm really like not in college, not in TTRPGs. I'm just not a good note taker because I'm so focused on like trying to like focus on what's happening, that if I stop to take notes, I'll only be able to keep in my head to write the last thing I heard, and that while I am writing, I'm only focusing on writing, and I'm missing the things that are happening while I'm writing. And so this is the particular thing that resulted in, after like 6-8 months of John running, maybe a year even of John running a game, I had a third of a page of notes, and most of it was just fragmented sentences that meant basically nothing. And like
I used to be a very meticulous note taker when it came to games, and I have really fallen off of doing that. I when I was taking notes, I found that I could take good notes for scenes that I wasn't in. And I think part of what helped, especially me to take such meticulous notes when I was playing Aiden, a bard, is that I was in the habit of taking notes effectively in combat already, because when I played that character, I wrote out my bardic inspiration for spells and incantations, and that helped me do that. But, you know, I would read out cool shit anytime I inspired somebody or cast a spell. But I used to take really meticulous notes, but when it came to any scene, anytime that I was acting in character, my notes just fell straight off. And so there would be holes in my notes anytime I was role playing, basically, because I can't do the both at the same time. I can either take notes or I can be in a scene.
Yeah.
Which maybe suggests to me that I should be in scenes less often. But
I don't know that that's the takeaway. I don't think that's the takeaway. Maybe I should roleplay less in these role-playing games. I don't think that's the takeaway. Somehow. I don't know that that's the solution.
We're playing a role-playing game. I think I'm not going to do any role-playing, though. I think that's the... Yep. That's what we're doing today.
I'm gonna play against type. I'm not gonna role play at all.
That's my secret cap. I never role play.
That's right. I'm role playing as somebody who is not here. Goodbye. And then oh god. I did make a character for a game that's upcoming yesterday that basically has the personality of Mermista from She-Ra.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I rolled on a table for vices, and one of those vices was nihilistic pessimism. The other vice was trashy romance novels. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I had to decide on a vice for a I had to decide on a vice for like an AI or like machine human like hybrid character that I was playing recently. And because I had read the first couple books of the Murderbot Diaries, which the central character of which is a like augmented human who, when they are on they hacked their governor module so that the thing that like makes them, basically just a fleshy robot company property, very cyberpunk, no longer works. And so what they do on their shifts is they download just like thousands of episodes of trashy romance dramas. And like I baked that vice into one of my recent characters where like they had to have a vice and it was like they binge things, and I was like, oh, I know what they binge.
Yep.
Like they're an AI that just watches hundreds of soaps when they're whenever they're idle. Sorry, Brady.
Ah, yes.
Oh,
I am who I am.
wow. Murderbot has joined the party 62 times.
Just need
It's
5
almost-
more. Or nope,
it's
that's
almost-
not math. 7 more. There we go.
No, I was going to say it's almost 100, but they both are. I like yours better.
There we go.
Because it's almost a nice number.
Honestly, once Murderbot has been summoned 69 times, we can't ever use that command anymore.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
God.
true. Once Murderbot has
be
been
the-
summoned 69 times,
Yeah.
I will disable that command.
Oh no.
Or I'll
No.
set it to 68 every single time
There you go,
thereafter. I'll
yeah.
just have Nightbot open and continually just reset it to 60.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, no, just those are extremely good vices.
Shit.
I'm sorry. Just the energy of these last couple minutes is
Ah.
Ramblemancy.
Sometimes you have free range rambles where we have an hour and a half of extremely stimulating conversation about existing in an extremely digital world, and sometimes Ramblemancy is just distilled chaos.
Sometimes it's like, hard-hitting insights into into films and storytelling and consumption of media, and sometimes it's talking about which robots fuck. And
Which Murderbot does.
And there's no better way to explain Ramblemancy.
There really,
Yes,
truly is not.
I don't know what else to tell you. If that didn't make sense to you for what Ramblemancy is, then I don't know how to explain it to you.
Those sexy character flaws, man. Like I love a character with some good flaws,
Mm-hmm.
And the what was it, pessimistic nihilism and
Mhm.
dollar store romance novels. Like sign me the fuck up. I love that character. That archetype is so good.
The funniest part about this, I realized, because these were all things that I randomly rolled, by the way. I rolled them on tables. I do have to say, so this is for like a 5e hack for this is a hack for 5e that's like Destiny themed. So like this character is a guardian, which means that she died at some point some time ago. Well, I rolled that she died about 4 centuries ago, which would be roughly now in Destiny lore. Canonically, she died yesterday as I was making the character in Chicago. And she died. I shit you not. This is the thing that I randomly rolled on the table. She died of an allergic reaction. Like, so this look, if that doesn't prompt a certain amount of nihilistic pessimism, I don't know what does.
All right, death number 1 after becoming a guardian, impaled on space rhino horn. Death number 2 after becoming a guardian, blown to smithereens by rocket launcher. Death number 3 after becoming a guardian, bled out. Death number 4, bullet right between the eyes. Death number 5 after becoming a guardian, peanut.
Yep.
Singular.
Yeah. Canonically in game, she does in fact have a peanut allergy. She died from eating a Reese's by accident.
You wouldn't know. You wouldn't remember when you become a guardian. Your memory goes away.
So like basically, I decided that like, because like that's the thing. You wouldn't know. She wouldn't know. So like, but this person's life prior to becoming a guardian was like the darkest cosmic joke. Just truly like, yeah. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's really not funny, but to such a degree that it kind of is again. That's who this guardian is.
Man, see, I don't know enough about Destiny lore and like guardians that like what guardians retain when they become guardians and are resurrected by the Traveler. Because like if they're just like wiped mostly clean of like memories and stuff, then like this is the kind of like weird granular shit that my brain latches onto is like, how does a guardian find out that they have a peanut allergy?
Right?
It's not like the little card on your body would have survived the nuclear bomb that wiped you off the face of the earth 300 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. No. The Traveler was just like, this soul is good. And then you're here now, and there's a bunch of space aliens, and sometimes you shoot a gun that looks like an AK-47, and sometimes it's made of starlight and shoots rainbows, right? Also, you have a peanut allergy, but you didn't know until you ate a fucking Snickers.
Yeah, like, how would that not create a sense of nihilistic pessimism in a person?
Right?
And that's kind of the tack that I'm taking with this character. I'm just like, I mean, our lives are ridiculous. You understand that, right? Like, they are ridiculous.
Truly. The life of a guardian is absolutely fucking bananas.
And then, of course, that brings me to, and this will be like probably one of the last things because we're here at the end, but it brings me to Sword Art Online Abridged, right? Where Kayaba is like, do you know how many of you died screaming Leroy Jenkins? More than 0, which as far as I'm concerned is grounds for the extermination of the entire species.
That's so good. God.
Yeah.
I need to go rewatch all of SAO Abridged now.
The newest episode has no right. It came out a couple days ago. It has no right to hit as hard as it does. It is a regular episode of SAO Abridged, with all of its weird little quirks and things like that. And then at the very end, it gives you an emotional gut punch and then ends.
Ooh.
It has no fucking right. Wow. No parody of anything has any fucking right to be as hard hitting and like good as SAO Abridged is. But it is. So yeah.
Sword Art Online is a pretty okay anime. At least like pieces of it, I think, are like depending on which parts of it. There's some of it that's really like, and some of it that I think that is pretty genuinely good. SAO Abridged rocks.
Yeah, it goes hard
Just
for literally
rocks.
no reason. It didn't have to, but it did.
Yeah, no. The fanon that deserved to be canon.
Yeah, I agree. They actually like in one single episode fixed one of the like weirdest B plots in the whole series, and did a really good job of it, like a really good job, and made it very emotional.
Wow.
Yeah, like genuinely one of the more problematic aspects of the original show. In one episode, in like 5 minutes, they just yeah, it was incredible.
I've got viewing to do.
Yeah, you do. It's really good. It's like 35 minutes. It's really good.
Jeez. You should watch. You should watch Sword Art Online abridged.
Yeah.
I would gladly watch it, some of it, or all of it with you at any point, because it is so good. I love Sword Art Online abridged.
It's very, very good.
Also, there's a lot of really good quotables.
Okay. Well, we are now at the end of our episode. And this is where it all starts to fall apart. I'm sorry, where it all continues to fall apart. Because I never remember how to end these. So all I will say is thank you so much, everybody, for showing up, for hanging out, for chatting with us, for derailing us and re-railing us, and yeah, that one got away from me.
If you would like to support us in what we do, so that we can continue
told you I don't know how to end these
Friday
episodes. I just said it.
If you have a comment that you want to make about what Lucas just said, you can join the Discord, !Discord in the chat right now. It's a great way to keep up with every single one of our announcements.
Don't comment about it. Don't comment on anything I said. As always, everything I've said is off the record. Goodbye.
I would like to file a complaint to HR, please. There's a channel for that. It's the Ramblemancy channel. Anyway, you can join the Discord, keep up with all of our announcements. It's usually the first place that we go to when we're going to announce any changes to our schedule. Twitter comes second at some point. And if you want to get cool advance updates, you can either subscribe here on Twitch or be a patron on our Patreon and get all kinds of other cool stuff like Media Club and Tabletop Tool Chests, where you can find out what our current media fixations are, the three folks here you see on screen, and cool little bits and bobs to use in your campaigns. Subbing on Twitch for a month or subscribing to us on Patreon gets you access to the backlog of Tabletop Tool Chests. So I highly recommend checking that out at some point. We have a coffee if you want to drop a one-time donation, or a Streamlabs tip jar, and subbing on Twitch gets you a few cool emotes. I think that's it for ways to support us, places you can follow us. We're at Rule of Lore on any platform that we are on. And we've got that cool little logo, and if that's not there and somebody's called Rule of Lore, it's probably not us.
And merch.
Yep.
I want to say merch.
We do have merch. We have a merch store. streamlabs.com/merch/Rule of Lore or something like that. We have a command for that. Thank you. /Rule of Lore /merch. Other way around. Yeah. So that's it. Yeah. YouTube's where we archive all of our shows.
Monday at 9 in the morning. 9:03. No, 9 in the morning. But the tweet. Anyway, it'll be on Monday morning.
You can find, I think, old game streams. You can find all of our tabletop RPG shows there, and of course, most of the history of Ramblemancy.
Yeah.
There are missing episodes here and there, but most of the episodes that have aired here on Twitch are on Ramblemancy. If you ever want to go back and check out other ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all the places you can find us, ways you can support us.
If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because it helps us out a lot, actually. Even though mostly we've been using YouTube as our archive, it still is useful to have, like, it's helpful very much. It's very. It
really is.
I'm gonna,
I always think about this, because
my brain stopped working.
It always sounds like anytime we say it, I know we sound like a broken record, but it's really important to say it every time, because it does help, it does work. Yep. Like, subscribe, especially for Ramblemancy. It makes sense if you jump in the comments. I always like to say continue the conversation in the comments. We'd love to see what you guys have to say about what we said. Even if, whatever it is, we'd love to see it.
If you're watching us on YouTube, you can comment about who thought it was a good idea to give me a microphone. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming, hanging out, chatting with us tonight. We will see you. Oh, will we see you next week for Ramblemancy? Probably not.
Strong maybe.
A strong maybe. If not Ramblemancy, we'll probably see you here for something. Probably. So stay tuned for announcements about that. The next several weeks are going to be very up in the air as John deals with life things. So,
I am moving, so very soon this will not be the background that I
Yep.
have. It will probably actually be fairly similar colors because I get to choose what my new room is going to be colored, and I like these colors. So, but I'm moving here in the next couple of weeks, and so I'll have a cool new background, or who knows, maybe I'll just put a green screen.
Send John some good vibes.
Yep.
Please.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We will hopefully see you next Friday, either for Ramblemancy or something else. But if not, we'll see you the next time you decide to come roll with us. Good night and good zone, everyone.